me, do not bother until maybe around 9 a.m. Simply because everyone's car would be out by 6 a.m. It was impossible. It would be you just sitting in your car on the road for the next 1.5 hours because of the traffic jam, because then everyone could afford a liter or two of fuel to be able to then maneuver around Kampala in their nice awesome cars. Did not matter what the fuel consumption of your car was. If it was a 1.6, 1.8, 2.4, 3.5, all of us were one and the same, enjoying the world up until the fuel prices went up. Right now, as we speak, fuel prices are ranging between 6,500 shillings and they're inching closer to 7,000 shillings. I'm pretty sure there's been fears that when it comes to the elections that are happening on the 9th of August in Kenya, we may even kiss perhaps 10,000 shillings per a litre of fuel. So fuel prices across the country now are weighing between that range and by reflection still on the rise. Yesterday alone, we did have a story being published in our sister company, Daily Monitor, where URA urged government to cause an investigation into destination of fuel imported by small companies on grounds of suspected hoarding to create shortage of fuel, therefore rising the prices higher and higher. So here to answer some of these questions in the Ministry of Energy on the current state of high fuel prices is John Friday, who's the Assistant Commissioner Petroleum Supply from the Ministry of Energy. Good morning to you, Sebo.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm all right.
Your car CC is to what range today?
I am driven in a government car.
Okay.
It is a 2.8 liter.
All right. And does this fuel price affect how you're actually spending on fuel?
It does, because what is allocated is the same. Therefore, if you have been using, say, 5 tanks in a month, it lowers to 3.5. All of us are equally affected.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. The other day, a friend of mine was telling me they had to put 100,000 shillings, and it only gave them 2 bars. As far as the car is concerned, they only got 2 bars out of 100,000 shillings, which is the fate of so many Ugandans. So let's start with URA's request on the matter of hoarding. As a sector you represent, this matter has been presented before the table, before the ministry, but then what's the response from the ministry?
Thank you so much. It's a little bit unfortunate that an institution of URA level would comment without having facts. There is no hoarding that has been taking place in this country. It was earlier on said in January that quite a number of trucks had been received in the country and that companies were suspected to be hoarding. These oil marketing companies we have in Uganda are duly licensed, and we have an act in place that authorizes us to verify what they have at their stations and even at their terminals, at the depots. It's a little difficult to convince the public who is already misled, but there is no hoarding that has ever taken place in this country. And if you look at actually the consumption between 1st of July and 15th of July, consumption has been relatively low, and there is no motivation to hoard. Further to that, these oil marketing companies are financed by banks to import these petroleum products. They pay taxes in advance, way in Kenya or in Tanzania, where they import from, and it is meaningless for you to come and hoard, keep the tanks full when you have banks to pay, and when at the same time the exchange rate is not favorable. For example, if you started business today with $1 million and you imported petroleum products worth $1 million, you'll come and sell in Uganda shillings. You are required to convert back at dollars and go and import the same cargo, the same consignment. From experience, simple mathematics, you not even raise that $1 million again. So there is no motivation for oil marketing companies to hold, and there's no product to hold. So I want the public to understand that whoever did that one did not have information, and URA is an institution of government. It has authority to check the depots. Let them come and verify and see if there is any depot that is full and is holding products in their terminals. That one is not correct.
Okay, all right. You have made mention of foreign exchange being one of the challenges that the sector is actually facing right now, especially for importing and exporting. Now, Bank of Uganda predicts a continued worsening of the foreign exchange rate, putting more pressure on the price of imported fuel products. How persistent is the shift of fuel prices likely to rise in the coming days?
The prices will therefore be a dependent variable. For now, we cannot know how the dollar will be in the next 3 months. That one is for Bank of Uganda. But as long as the exchange rate is still unfavorable the way it is today, doing international business becomes more cumbersome, not only for petroleum products, but even other businesses. Once you're an importer, exchange losses are inevitable. And by the way, back at oil marketing companies, it is going to be difficult for those that don't have enough working capital for you to go and import when the exchange rate is like that. But it was originally stable, only now we are facing hard times. So as long as it is raising, the price is a dependent variable. It just depends on the dollar.
Okay, all right. You have also made mention of the national fuel reserves, and this is a debate that has been tabled, by leaders, by members of parliament, by regular people, in the question of how can we actually invest in fuel reserves to be able to safeguard ourselves for the future. You're looking at countries like Sri Lanka that have had to oust presidents, their leaders, simply because of the economic crisis and its impact on fuel alone. They had to make some hard decisions in some countries and say that privately owned cars for now don't get onto the road so that they can manage what they do have as a country. So in regards to the fuel reserves in the country, what is your comment on this?
We have currently, government owns a storage facility in Jinja, which is 30 million liters, 10 million liters for petrol and 20 million liters for diesel. That facility is run by the Uganda National Company, which is a commercial arm of government, and they entered a joint venture with another oil company, and they refurbished the facility in Jinja, and it is operating. And you must be privy to some information that the Uganda National Company has presented its requirement for extra funding, and once the funds are available, they will be able to stock the component for the national fuel reserves. But for now, the tanks are operational with trading stock, and they are operated by Uganda National Company and One Petroleum as a joint venture partner. This country has not lacked product, and it is also fair that we understand the importance of reserves. Reserves are there to stabilize supply, to improve security of supply. And you are also cognizant of the fact that even the private companies also have their depots. They have big storage tanks, and the law requires each one of them to have 10 days stock. That's why even at the time when we had difficulties in January, when there was a strike of trucks at the border of Kenya, Malaba and Busia, because of the COVID tests, for 2 weeks, this country didn't run dry. We had enough product to run because all the inland terminals were operating. And if you bring in the Sri Lanka issue, that is a crisis. It is an emergency where you reach a level of rationing, that is emergency level, and I have not seen ourselves go that far. We have enough products to keep the country running because the supply routes of Kenya and Tanzania are open and operating.
Okay. Now, speaking of Kenya and Tanzania, they have actually introduced subsidies, and some of their products, especially when it comes to their fuel products, they have been able to contribute something in order to bring those prices down. For example, in Tanzania, they have allocated subsidies worth $43 million, and they've also announced a reduction in prices effective as we speak right now. Back in April, we saw Kenya taking the same route, resolving to pay fuel subsidies and also softening the blow on the consumers of these fuel products. And now we are wondering if, from the ministry perspective, there are going to be any policy responses in regards as far as Uganda is concerned, because so many people have been calling for Uganda to take the same route of doing subsidies in order to calm the pressure down on the fuel prices.
You are right. In Kenya, subsidies have been in operation for some time. Tanzania also have something almost similar to Kenya, but a smaller portion. But in as far as subsidies are concerned, we have been guided properly by the Minister of Finance that instead of having subsidies, let's have more production. So in this area, instead of having subsidies, let us sustain the supply so that we have enough product for each and every outlet instead of looking at subsidies. And we have also been guided as well by the head of state, His Excellency the President. It was very clear that let us focus on production. For now, I don't think I'm at liberty again to comment on subsidies where the minister in charge has been very clear. For now, let us continue to operate in a free and fair market where the forces of demand and supply determine the price.
Well, the market is free, Mr. Fred, but fairness in all respects is blowing out of proportion.
No, it has not reached the level where we must intervene.
So what would that level be that would then cause you to intervene?
If we see the market, the prices at the pumps today, they are relatively okay. Because if you have talked of a subsidy, in Kenya, for example, where 80% of our products pass through, and I want you to understand that the price of Kenya when the ship is bringing the product at Mombasa, we all buy together. We buy at the same price with the Kenyan market, and this product is received in the same terminal. What is for Kenya remains for Kenya, and what is for Uganda comes to Uganda. So when Kenya has a subsidy of an equivalent of 1,800 shillings, for example, for today they have a subsidy of 53.70 Kenya shilling for diesel. That is 1,800. So if you got the pump price you have mentioned of 6,500 in Ajanamkumbi where I have passed, and you remove the 1,800 subsidy, for example, you'll find that the price, if you got the pump price of Kenya and added back that subsidy of 1,800, you'll be amused to find that the price of Najanamkumbi where you are passed is the same as Nairobi where we buy from. So the major cause of the worry is that the other place is subsidized, this one is operating in a free and fair market.
So is free and fair intervention going to call you when the prices have hit 10,000, 20,000? At what point exactly? Ugandans want to know. At what point is government going to be so disturbed by these fuel prices?
I've been very clear that issues of subsidy is the Minister of Finance.
What are the recommendations from the petroleum end?
We are focusing as a ministry on security of supply. We want products to be available in the country, products to be available at each and every outlet, and charging competitive prices. And the quality of the product is okay.
Well, competitive prices is what he states. The competition is actually now being very, very ugly. You're having Shell maybe having a diesel at 6,200. You're having Total having literally a whole 400 shillings increment in how they're selling their diesel, which is very unfair to the Ugandans that have to use this fuel, not just for moving up and about, by the way, but you're looking at industrialization. In this recovery of the economy, one of the focal points is industrialization of, say, the agriculture sector and so on and so forth. They're being affected by these things. But you also continuously mention of Kenya. Now, Kenya brings in literally almost 80% of our fuel products into the country. It's one route that we're constantly getting out. We depend on. And they're going into elections in a few days. So if they're going into elections in a few days, should a Ugandan get worried that that election period is going to affect the flow, the security of petroleum products in the country?
Sancho, a Ugandan should not be worried at all, because the elections will take place in Kenya, but there is a sitting government in Kenya. We have a head of state in charge. All the structures of government are working, and he's not participating in the election himself. So there are other candidates. The government is in control. But at the same time, when you hear 80% coming through Kenya, it was not like that at the beginning of the year. In case there are some issues in Kenya, we are ready to use Tanzania, and this country will not run dry. Don't look at the past experiences of 2008-2009. We have had elections in Kenya in 2013. We have had elections in 2017. This country has remained wet.
Yes, but the challenge was that when those elections happened, the ones that you have mentioned in particular, you did have shortage of supply to Uganda.
Even now we don't have shortage. The shortage we experienced was in January, but it was for a very few hours actually. And when the border opened, supply was brought back at shape.
All right.
We have had no shortages at all.
So are there any speculated outcomes that should worry the importers or even the consumers at the end of the day with those elections forthcoming?
No, there should be no one at all for a consumer, and the importers are using both Kenya and Tanzania, and in case there's some issue in Kenya, Tanzania is open. But you also need to know that we also have an opportunity to load from Kisumu at the lake shores. There is a jetty there. The product comes in the pipeline up to Kisumu, and you are able to load wagon ferries, and they bring product to Uganda. And then we also have barges that will commence operation soon, owned by some private company, that will also bring in a 4.5 million liter vessel that will bring product from Kisumu to Kampala. So the supply routes, irrespective of any worries consumers have, will remain operational.
Okay, now we also do have a report here from UBOS. Diesel prices have increased by 54% in May, while petrol recorded an increase of 30%. Apart from the local and regional factors that you have mentioned, the fuel prices are mainly driven by the changes of crude oil in the international market. Now currently, if we're to go by what is on the international market, a barrel is at, it has moved from $40 to now $110. That was in 2020 when we used to buy it at 40. Now that's a high increment. Can the country rely on this recent oil discovery that we see in the Albertine region?
There is still a process to get to product that is coming from that region. But you also need to know that Uganda is a net importer of refined petroleum products. We don't import crude, we import refined petroleum products. And the reason why diesel prices have been rising so fast is simple. The prices globally have gone up because of the post-COVID economies opening. What happened during lockdown, some refiners were not working. And when everybody came back to business, it was difficult for the consumers to get all of the product they needed at the same time. So it implied that now the refiners and the trading companies were getting product a little more expensive because the supply was lower than the demand. The marine vessels, this oil is imported, so it comes on the oceans. The ships that are used, some of them had not been working for 2 years, and now they come to business. Some were no longer seaworthy, and the few that were running were not enough. Therefore, the freight itself moved up, coupled by the fact that the price of the product itself had increased. Even the cost of transportation on the high seas increased. As we are battling with that one, then this disagreement of Ukraine and Russia came, the war started, and Russia is a very big supplier of diesel to Europe. So with 900,000 barrels of oil out of production, given the sanctions on Russia, the European market also moved to the same source where we buy from, and that one moved the price of diesel higher. That's why, irrespective of the subsidies the diesel has, there's a time when the diesel price was the same as petrol. In some situations, it even overshot petrol. That's why it has increased higher than petrol, irrespective of the regional issues that we might be having.
Okay, Mr. Friday, also, there's not to something here. President Joe Biden had a meeting recently with the Saudi prince in regards to, sort of diversifying their oil in terms of what they take in as a country. And so we're seeing this also being coupled by the fact that Russia is threatening to sort of, have a lockdown on oil. So that puts a lot of pressure. Now, where does this meeting leave Uganda in actually aiding a way forward to the fuel prices?
We can look why the two met. I think President Biden is interested in having more production of oil by the Saudi. And the moment there is more production of oil, it means we equally benefit, because the supply factor that I've mentioned, once it improves, then the prices themselves will improve. It is something that is very positive. If they open up and produce more, we shall equally benefit.
Okay, so now we want to go back to the Albertine region. Uganda is expected to enter oil production. Could you walk us through the states that we are at right now before that can actually commence?
You are aware the final investment decision was made recently. There's quite a lot of activity for the East African crude oil pipeline. It would be better that we discuss that when the work has already commenced, because deadlines have been set before, they have adjusted. Let's wait for the East African crude oil pipeline construction to commence, and then we can be able now to talk firmly that within the next 36 months we shall have oil out of Uganda to the market.
Okay, all right. Now, in your capacity as Commissioner for Petroleum Supply, we would like to hear from you. Uganda would like to hear from you. What would be the recommendations of the dire state of, oil products on the market right now to government and also to individuals?
One would want the supply to improve and to have all the oil marketing companies access all of the product that they are supposed to receive from all the terminals in Kenya and Tanzania, to be able to comply with the 10 days requirement for each and every licensed company to have stock that can last them for 10 days away from what is at their service stations, and also to have the storage facility in Jinja improve their stock, and then the market forces will drive the prices, because here the prices are determined by the market. Then in the coming months, we see the private company that built a 72 million storage facility in Kauku, with barges also operating, and improve transportation on the lake to bring down the cost of landed prices into the country. And then also have in the long term, have the national company build their facility in Pigi, because there's land which we bought some years back. It was also handed over to the Uganda National Company. They are getting a pattern on board soon. They developed that storage facility that will be able to receive refined petroleum products from the proposed refinery in Hoima, and then this market the dynamics will change. That's how we look at it. But there is no cause for alarm. The Ugandan consumers should not worry. The supply routes are open, and the prices we have today are still very competitive.
All right. Well, I can't add any words to that. If he says that it's all determined by supply and demand, then there's not much that government is expected to do about it. Of course, in response to the subsidies our neighbors, Kenya and Tanzania, that they are applying to their petroleum products, that in Uganda is not yet an option. So for now, government will intervene when government decides to intervene. For now, it is free and fair, as stated by Mr. John Friday, who is the Commissioner Petroleum Supply in the Ministry of Energy. So the rest is up to you and me. If you park your car well and good, start to walk. It also helps your body system, puts you in a better shape. At the end of the day, it's between you and me. We are the end users of these products, and we get to actually, suffer the consequences of what's happening globally, within the region, and also nationally. Now, yes, it's an economic crisis, but it doesn't have to be a crisis. You can alternate, you can adjust, and you can make a better decision right now, which is informed given what he has shared with us this morning regarding the fuel prices. It's not going to change any time now, and his commitment is that there will be protection of supply even when the Kenyan elections come by, but then again, whatever happens then cannot be determined now. So we shall wait and see. For now, the choice is in your hands on how to do your day-to-day business and live your day-to-day affairs in this country, because not just Uganda, but the whole world is suffering due to these oil taps being noted a little bit tighter. Now, away from that, into our tech note, we're going to be looking at seeds of gold. Can you believe it? It's been 26 editions down the road, and now into the 27th edition, and they have made some adjustments that are going to benefit a lot of farmers across Uganda. And Pizza Origin is also available for Tuesday, is where you need to go. Pizza Origin, they are ready for you. They are opposite Nema House on Ginger Road. I'll be sharing the numbers with you that you can make your order, have it delivered in your office. Yeah, at least for that one, it will be fuel friendly. And you can enjoy a pizza. For now, we take a short breather.